Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Players NIL Unlocking Influence series of podcasts. Today, we're going to talk about influencers in the artists and creative world. And I'm so excited for my special guest, Genevieve Garruppo. Genevieve, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, your career is exciting, and as young as you are, you've experienced a lot of things, and we're going to dive into that. But I think our audience wants to know a little bit about how people got inspired. What were the things that they dreamt about? How did you decide that, creative photography, residential photography, and all the things that you do was going to be your career? So let's go back. I'm going to ask a specific question. When you were a teenager in high school, what was your professional vision? What were your professional dreams?
It was a mixed bag. I had a teacher. I kind of feel like a lot of creatives start with like that teacher that inspires them, or like a family member or somebody. But I did, and I remember being in high school and saying, Mrs. Burns, will call her out because she's still teaching and she's fantastic. I was like, I don't know. I think I want to be a photographer, but I'm really nervous. And maybe I'll just be a social worker because I like chatting and helping people. And she's like, just try the photography. If it doesn't work, then move on. And I applied to college and like that was it. But it was started out pretty young where I was like, I really like this.
Well, you're at the perfect age. I'm guessing that the equipment used in those days was digital, or was it film?
I learned even all through college. So I graduated college in 2008. But at Savannah College of Art and Design, a great school. Up until then, there was only one digital class. So I really my formative years learning everything was all film based. And even in high school too, like it's intricate, but learning all of that, I really taught myself digital kind of a little bit later, and then professionally realized this is now just the digital world.
So had a tremendous career. You've worked with Vogue and New York Magazine. You are an approved photographer for Architectural Digest. Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
I think I just saw a recent award.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the technical aspects between film and digital, because I'm naive and
Sure.
I just think a picture is a picture. Obviously, the results are different, but tell me some of the differences and some of the things you had to learn moving to digital.
Yes. Well, so I focus on interior design as a photographer. I do some other stuff like lifestyle portraiture, whatever, but my bread and butter is interiors. And the biggest thing that I found really interesting is like back in the day, really before I got into it, interior design photographers were shooting Polaroids on like a big back, opening up, looking at the photo, styling, doing whatever they had to do, zhuzhing a pillow or this and that, and then snapping the final one that was on film. So the biggest difference, I think, is really like the ease in which we can do a shoot. I shoot right to my computer. Clients can see everything as we do it. So there's really no surprises, which is really nice. And then we finish the shoot and I retouch. So the workflow is easier. It's cheaper. Film, even back then, was still expensive. It was an added cost for clients to have to process film. And you don't have the guessing game, so you really see it. So that I think is the biggest the biggest difference. Although I will say when I travel, I only bring film cameras with me to keep it alive.
Is there a difference in the product? Is the end result different, film versus digital?
Um, yeah. I mean, you can get a crispier, beautiful photo with digital, but especially now, like within the past 3 years, I would say that the vibes, like people are like into, I don't really know what that means, but like people are into like the aesthetic of what film might look like, and that is appealing, but it's achievable. I mean, some photographers will hate me for saying this, but it is achievable in a digital sense where there's like plugins and there's like all this stuff. So in the physical form, there isn't that big of a difference. Um, if you were printing the images, the way that film looks printed, but you could also achieve that digitally too. So I would say it's just a cleaner photo with digital, just because of technology and like what computers and cameras are capable of doing.
Yeah. I suppose I equate it to vinyl records versus digital records. Similar.
It is, but and that's another thing too that I think is so interesting is that we've had a resurgence like over the past like 2 years of vinyl being really popular. And I'm not an audiophile, is that the word?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who's like super excited about sound. I'm not, but I do recognize the warmth and richness of like a vinyl being played on good speakers. And I guess it could be very similar to like a really nice photo, like good film image shot on a great camera, printed really well. Like you won't be able to really recreate that in a digital sense, but you can get pretty close.
Talk about the convenience of digital. I just recently took a cross country flight and I watched the movie Boys in the Boat about rowing.
Okay.
And it's a true story. 1936 Olympics, this unheralded group of athletes from the University of Washington, 8-man crew, go to the Olympics. And the Olympic gold medal race is a photo finish, literally a photo finish. And they had to wait to develop the photograph before they could announce who the winner was, which actually was the United States and this team from Washington. So it's very pertinent to what you're
I'll have
talking
to
about.
watch that. I'm surprised I didn't use a Polaroid because 36, you said?
Yeah,
They may have not been around yet. Yeah.
It was film. It was film. I also have to tell you that my father is from Rochester, New York, a town that was built by Kodak
Yes,
and digital
Kodak.
and real film. So I have a special connection to that product a little bit. Um, let's talk about your journey, Genevieve. So you go to Savannah College of Art and Design, amazing school, incredible world-class reputation. But with that degree and all of that experience, no guarantees on your career. Tell us about the early days.
Well, 2008, if anybody remembers, was a rough year for everybody. I mean, that was tough. I decided a bit naively, but I think it's important for the journey to move to San Francisco, like right after college. And I was with a partner. We decided to move. We had visited there once before. The music, the vibes were like, it was everything I wanted. And so I wasn't ready to move back to New York yet. Being from Long Island, I really was excited to like leave and see what the rest of the country had, hence Savannah and then San Francisco. And so I interned, kind of just worked for free, really, at this place called Hamburgerize. They're still around. It's an all film based black and white street photography. And I've met people there that I still keep in touch with. And I was help managing the dark rooms. They had a place in the Mission that was all the dark rooms, color dark rooms, black and white. And then they also had a publication. So that was really cool getting to learn that. I didn't last long. I was there less than a year and then ran out of money that I had saved, a few summers before that in between college, and was like, okay, it's time to come back home. I did pop into Kansas City for a minute and waitressed because that's where my partner was from. So we decided, let's do it. Then said, nah, I'm done. And I actually came back to New York and was a substitute teacher and was offered a job teaching at BOCES. It's an acronym. I'm not sure what it stands for, but it is a school where the students can come to, it's a trade school. So they would come to me half the day and then go back to their regular school half the day. And they had like electrician, hairdresser, photography, film, like video, car mechanics. So it was really cool, but I knew they had offered to pay for me to continue my education to get my teaching degree because I just had a BFA in photo. But I was young. I was 4.5 years older than the students. And I really knew that like I had a vision for my career. And I was like, this is kind of crazy not to take this job. I don't want to live on Long Island, and I don't want to be a teacher right now. It seems like maybe I would revisit that in the future, but I had a vision for my career. So I'm happy I didn't. And then I came to Brooklyn and started grinding.
Board of Cooperative Education Services,
Ah,
BOCES.
Board of Cooperative Education Services. Okay.
Yeah,
I should
originally
know that.
originally was a trade school for kids that didn't
Yeah.
want to go to traditional route of college. Today,
Yeah.
obviously, those skills, right, those trades are incredibly valuable. So everyone that's young today that I meet, they all want to be successful and they want to do it today, not tomorrow. They want to do it today. They don't understand the grind, right? In
Right.
some cases, and I'm not trying to be the old man curmudgeon, but there are some of us that did 2 or 3 jobs at once in order to pay the bills,
Oh,
and really
yeah.
the grind is real. So let's talk about the grind, because I think part of the grind to me in those early days is rejection. The word rejection. Tell me about, what does rejection mean to you?
Well, in the very early days, it was constantly applying for jobs that my heart wasn't really in, but I desperately needed it to like pay rent and feed myself. And still hearing no, 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 mainly because I wasn't right for the job, but also the economy was so horrific. And then as I got older, and I then kind of meandered my way into New York City and the careers that I had found myself there, a lot of it was like, I don't know, like the balancing of trying to figure out how to make money, how do you pay your taxes, like getting audited, not really, but like then saying you didn't pay this, that was almost like a feeling of rejection almost, because you're like, I don't understand. Somebody needs to help me. And it was, you're in your 20s, you're having fun, you're trying to figure out what path you're going to go down. But like, I distinctly remember, I mean, I'm still paying my student loans, to be honest. I'm so close. But, you know, it was the struggle for money and trying to just succeed, and also like forget savings. Like it was, that to me almost felt like this, like society's rejection, almost like not even just the specific jobs, because as I got older too, now into my career now, I experience rejection in a very sort of black and white way, where I will, then somebody will say, hey Genevieve, we need you, we want to shoot this project, blah blah blah, and I'm like, great, I'm available, here's my estimate, and then I hear nothing. And like that, now I'm dealing with that version of rejection. My money's figured out now. I'm 8 years into freelance, so I think it really takes 10 years to do a job and understand it. So I'm almost perfectly understanding it, but I really think it takes 10 years. And so the money situation, that like version of rejection, I'm like, okay, I can go on trips, I can pay my taxes, like I'm okay. But now it's like, we don't, they just won't answer. So
Yeah.
there's different versions of rejection through the years.
So I love it. It's a great answer. And my experience in Hollywood working with creatives is a generalization. Again, a lot of creatives are not very linear. In other words, they're not good business people, right?
No.
They don't really understand 1+1 = 2. Sometimes it's 3/4, sometimes it's 3/8, sometimes it's 5/8. And
Yeah.
so you're a freelancer, which means you, as they say in the business world, you eat what you kill, right? In other words, you got to go out and grind to get every job. So let's
Yeah.
talk about the word negotiation and some of those early jobs where you knew you needed the job, you knew you needed to make money, you wanted the job because creatively it was a great opportunity. How did you talk to those people? How did you negotiate your rate? Tell us about some of those
Yeah.
early negotiation conversations.
Early is very different from now, which I'm relieved to be able to say that to you. Like after 8 years, I'm having different conversations. In the beginning, so I was at Architectural Digest. I was on staff as a photographer there. It was only 8 months. They didn't really need the position. It was kind of weird that they would have an on-staff photographer slash videographer. That's a whole nother version of rejection. Anyway, I leave there, I go freelance. That was again that feeling. Now I'm 30 at that point, and so out of my 20s, but like not really. And I was getting, like, I remember this one company, I won't name them, they're not around anymore, but they were asking for shoots for like 500 or 600 bucks. And by the time, and I have gear, right? So like I can't really go on the subway with it. I have like rolly things, tripods, all the stuff that I really won't shoot without, because God forbid there's no lighting or you have to shoot a portrait. You really need that insurance. So okay, so now I have to take an Uber. If I have to go to the Upper West Side, that's $100. If I had to rent anything that I didn't own, that's another $100, say. I mean, if there was, I have to pay taxes out of that. So then it ends up being, all of a sudden for a whole day's work and then retouching, I'm making $200. Like, I said yes to every single one of those jobs because I knew I needed to figure out my network and meet those people and hope that it would bring something later, which some of them did. But also, I needed money. I needed something. And so those negotiations were really not necessarily negotiations. I knew the clients that I could say, okay, how about 1,000, but really it was kind of like, I'm not really killing anything. I'm just foraging right now. I'm picking berries because it's all I can get. But now different. Now I have a better contract, like all that other stuff. So it's, I can negotiate now. And I said to my assistant the other day, like, I don't work without you. And I won't take jobs that are under a certain amount because it's just not worth it for me anymore. I have administration that I have to do, send my invoices, schedule stuff, take a walk, which is important.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different now. But yes, in the beginning, it was just kind of like, okay, I'll do it.
Well, I think it's the standard story that young people, especially in big cities where everything is competitive, it's not like you're in a town where there's no other photographers, right? There's lots of people that would probably take those lower paying jobs. So you went through the grind, handled rejection, you learned the art of negotiation. Now you've arrived 8 years into it. You're approved artist or a photographer for Architectural Digest. You've got all of this success. Let's talk about the marketing of your brand. Let's talk about your brand. So brand, as we define it, is what other people think of you, okay? Regardless of what you think of yourself, it's what other people, so it's the people's perception. And for you, it's very wrong phrase, but right phrase, black and white. It's there, right? Your product is right there. It's your photography. But it's more than that, because people don't just hire people because they can do a job. They hire people because they like them. They feel comfortable with them. They want them to be, part of their circle, life, whatever it may be. How do you tell that story? I mean, we know you have success. We know your pictures have been in magazines and in a book and all these things. But, what is your story and how do you tell that?
So funny you say that specifically. Like, I remember when Quinn Sherman was my assistant when I first started, a mutual friend. And I said to him early days, Quinn, there's 100 more people in the city who could do what I'm doing. What I want to do is show up and be professional, fun, keep it light. We're not working on brain surgery here. We're taking pictures. So, but also have fun, but take yourself seriously in that. So that's been a mantra of mine from the very beginning. So I think part of the marketing and how to do that is, even on those little jobs, up until now, is be your brand, right? So like, I have fun. It doesn't matter what I wear, but like, is there color? Like we want the set being like where I'm shooting to be light and allow creativity to flow. And I allow that sounds weird, but my assistants, who's ever with me, like, I want input, that's a huge part of my brand. And so it is in person, but it's also in the voice I tried to be on Instagram a little bit. I'm not on TikTok or like any of the others. Instagram is like enough for me right now. But my work is very colorful, like quite literally. Like my assistant now calls me the queen of color, which I love. She just says that. Nobody else says that. But I want I want my presence to feel like that. So that's the biggest thing is my personality is as important as the work that I'm doing. I want them to sort of seamlessly kind of come together. And you get that feeling when you look at my images that you feel like you're talking to me.
It's a great answer, and it's not surprising. I looked at your Instagram, 8,600 followers. For someone that
Yeah.
just posts their work, I didn't see a lot of personal information. In other words, about your story, about your journey, a day in the life, the challenges, tips and tricks, all these things that might add to your following and grow your brand. Is that something that you're considering?
You know, I I would like to do more that feels a little personal. I think that the way I sort of approach it is my grid, which this might not be the best way to approach it. I'm open to suggestions, but my grid is really just an extension of my website. It's just a lot of work because it's really interesting how photo editors, interior designers, any client really doesn't have to be with my field, but they're not always going to your website. They might be looking at your Instagram first. So I have little things here and there about my apartment, which is shot by me and still is interiors, but there's a lot there. There might be some stories in there. And then in my stories, like in the sort of instant ones, those to me are the ones that I get a little bit more personal. But I would love to maybe do a little bit. A day in the life would actually be really nice. I don't want it to feel too sort of, I think women specifically in the creative world can quickly fall into that like stereotypical influencer trying to push a product, which is nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. But because I am a professional in another field, I wanted to sort of stay true to that and not have that line blurred at all. But even something as simple as like picture of Penny, my dog. Like I'm like, how do I have a picture of her? But I think I actually do now. But I should get a little bit more personal and open up a little bit. It probably will help me post more too, because that is that is a hurdle I'm trying to figure out. It's like how even finding the time to schedule a post. Like it's really important. So
Yeah,
I need to get
yeah.
better at that.
Well, I don't think you're any different than a lot of the young people I work with. Most of them are athletes. Not everyone's comfortable sharing their personal life. Not everyone's comfortable putting themselves out there. Some of them, though, are using this platform to create professional relationships, right? So job internships, career
Mhm.
opportunities, networking, LinkedIn type relationships. Your business is growing and doing well with the clients that you have. So perhaps marketing your brand isn't as important to you. But I still believe that storytelling is important. And I still believe
Mhm.
that people interact, although you get an invoice with a number on it and you submit or you send an invoice with a number on it, you get a purchase order with a number on it. There is a personal connection to that. And people want to know who they're working with and who they're dealing with. And so we try to find that balance too. And for girls and young girls and women, there is that vulnerability to that. And I'm not naive to that.
Mhm.
And look, you put yourself out there, you're open to criticism, right? There's going to be always someone that's going to take a shot or be jealous or whatever that may be. Last series of questions.
Mhm.
You use photography to tell a story. You tell a story about the interiors of homes and businesses and people's residence, people's place of work, their vacation homes. Tell us about the storytelling. When you walk into a room, how long does it take you to figure out what the story is? Or do you have a preconceived notion? And what is it? What are some of the stories that you try to tell?
Oh, I love that. Well, it takes me 5 seconds. I
Okay.
feel like it's really a story of light, color, and texture. So when I walk, sometimes I get to see scouting for some shoots, and sometimes I don't. Like on bigger commercial stuff, like I have a client, Hunter Douglas. Like I do their shades. They're like really nice, but they'll send me scouting, so we'll understand what's going on there, and we know that narrative is like the light coming through and like blah blah blah. So that depends on the client, but the story I always want to tell is like we'll walk through a home first with my client that say it's an interior designer, and we'll make a game plan. So I want to make sure that the light, there's a window next to me. That's why I keep pointing over there, but you don't know that. Every time light comes in, I want to follow the light, right? So we go east to west for the most part. And we want to tell this story of like who's living there, who's the personality that lives there. But it's like how the light's coming in and hitting something and creating like that feeling using like texture and color. So I can make my narratives very quickly because I've taken hundreds, thousands of photos.
Well, that's why you're the guest on the podcast and I'm the host, because I couldn't do that. So we talk about informing an audience, educating an audience. The third word is inspire. So here's your opportunity to inspire young people or artists that are trying to achieve success in their own world. What are the tips and tricks? What are the words of advice? Give us a couple of nuggets and sound bites that we'll use to promote this.
Yes. Well, there's going to be a lot of people out there, like I said, who want to do what you do. But the best thing is like what I try to do, have your personality come out. Don't be afraid to like feel like you have to create a certain persona to like do this job. If you are genuinely you and you love what you do, you're going to be the preferred person that everybody wants to go to. It's proven. We know this. And, I think something that's important is when I started 8 years ago, this is a perfect example, that AD 100 list or the AD approved photographers. In 2021, so not that many years ago, it was just 50, which I'm on. But it's already increased just 3 years later to 100. There's so many more photographers that are doing what I do that I've not seen before. And I'm happy to have the company because it's not about competition. It's about just getting the right jobs that are for you and making those clients and those relationships that are going to like fulfill you and help you grow. So if you lose that, it's good to have healthy competition a little bit, but if you start getting down about like what's happening around you, not what's happening to you, then like go out and get it. Like there's room for you. There's room for everybody.
Wow, great answers. Awesome. Well, Genevieve, it's been a great conversation. We appreciate you sharing and being vulnerable about your journey.
Sure.
If people want to follow you, what's your website? What's your Instagram handle? How can we find you?
Our website is GenevieveGaruppo.com, GenevieveGaruppo.com. And my Instagram handle is just my last name, Garuppo, Garruppo.
Well, great. Well, congratulations on all that you've accomplished. I have a funny feeling we just scratched the surface. And, as a fan, as a family friend, we'll be cheering you on and we'll be excited to watch this journey. And thank you for being a guest on Influencer Conversations, part of the Players NIL, where we try to inspire people to use their creativity and their passion for success. And you're a great example. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.